All right, so welcome to our first class in the web development class. And what's this course all about? So it's all about how you can develop a website. And when you're talking about websites, this is the application that runs on the browser. And the website is a combination of different pages coming together under the same domain. So what is domain? Those are some basic stuff. So whatever you type in this URL here, so this address, this text, everything we have here is what we call the domain. So you can think of the domain as a pointer to where all these files for this site are saved to. Because the way computer talks to each other is through numbers, and they use something known as IP to locate each other. But as human being now, you can't just be putting IP in your head. Like the IP is, for example, like 19 or 119.2, whatever. So there's no way you put all those in your head for different millions of websites we have online. So they come up with a way of, assigning a name to all those IP. So those IP now, or anytime you need a particular site, you type whatever you want or the domain inside the URL there. And once you type it, computer knows or the browser knows what to do behind the scene to locate the IP that is mapped to that address. Then from then it will go to the computer that have that IP there. But how does all the browser does like how does it do all this thing? We don't need to care about that right now. But later on, you need to see what the browser is doing behind the scene, because when you are communicating with external services there, you need to know how to do that too. For example, here now, if I reload this page, you see that as you can see, what the browser will have to do first is to locate where this URL is coming from. Then once you get it, it will get the IP. Once you get the IP, then from there, as you can see, it will load all the resources. But to the end user, nothing concerned about this. What they just want to see is the content on the screen there, but nothing concerned about how you get. But if I click on this, you see that. Can you see the remote address? So that is the IP address of where or whatever this name is mapped to. So the computer that is going to give you all these details is coming from this so address, with what we call the after the column is what the port, because on one computer you can have many applications running. So how is it going to know which one? Which is just like the room here. This building now. So you can think of it as the IP. But inside that room, or you can think of it as the computer, and you use IP, which is the address, to locate this place. Because before you get here, there's an address that was given to you. But after you get here too, you need to enter the correct room. Not that just because you want to call to mailbox now go downstairs and now enter where you're not supposed to enter. They will just tell you that this is not where you are coming from. So that's what the port is there for. Even though you have a computer or you have the IP that can locate that computer, there are different rooms or there are different applications that can be running on that particular computer. So how do you locate the one you want? So we have the port number there, but you don't need to care about all this one for now as a beginner, because that's not the major thing. But those are the things that are going on behind the scene there, like that. And this is a sample of a site. We have different sites that you can visit online. For example, this is another one, and as you can see that its own domain is different. This one too is mapped to a particular IP there, like that. And what the course is all about is how we can bring this to life. So that's what we are after there, like that. So web development is the process of you developing and maintaining a particular web site. And when you're talking about websites, we have different type of websites. Like you have the e-commerce sites, you have the web application, and a lot of them like that. So when you're talking about web application, these are applications that runs on the browser, not that you install them, or we have a mobile app. So those one means you are going to install them on your phone. But when you're talking about the web app, those are the apps that runs on the browser. You cannot use them outside of the browser. And we have a lot of them like that that you are going to be seeing there. For example, like YouTube now is one of the web applications, even though they have their mobile, but they still have the web version of it, which is more broader than the mobile, because there's some stuff you want to do. They will tell you that you have to go to the site to go and do the stuff there. For example, now I have this studio. So this is YouTube Studio. This is a site, but it's not just any site. It's a web application because you can do a series of action on this particular site. For example, here I can create new video, I can update the video that is here, do a lot of things, check comment, delete comment, do all those things. So, but how do you generate? What are they using to generate all these things? That's what we are trying to learn in this course. So how can you to generate? How can you display someone's image? How can you display logo? How can you make the color of it to be black in this way instead of it to be white or instead of it to be red and so forth like that? Because whatever this site is using here, that's what other sites will be using too. The difference there is how you now customize it to your own taste. There like that. So you can see here too, we have all this kind of a button, you have a box, you have a lot of things. Again too, when you go to their login page, you are going to see that they have the box where you can type your name or the email depending on whatever they are using to log in. So you can see the box here. But the box you are seeing here is still the same box that this site too is using here. But if you look at it, you see that the styling is quite different, but they are using the same thing. And that's where the language that you are going to be using to bring all these things to life. Because when you are working on web development, we have different languages that you can use there like that. Yes. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, so we have different language that you can use. But before you get to that language, when you're developing a site, in the olden days, there is not like you don't have too much of things to do. But these days, we have a lot of things to do. So you always break them down into different categories. So when you're developing your site, too, depending on the complexity of that site, there, we have the classification of web development there. So we have the front end, we have the back end, and we have the full stack, which is a combination of the two like that. So when we're talking about front end, that's the one that deals with the area that the user interacts with. So all the element you are seeing, whatever the user can see on the site, that's what the front end all about. But the data that the user will be using is being stored somewhere, is being retrieved from somewhere, and is being managed from somewhere. So that place, that's what we call the back end, which means like the end of the user are not going to interact with that end directly, but they will come through the front end. Front end is the one that presents all the data that is coming from the back end into the user in a meaningful way. So this YouTube studio, whatever stuff like this is not the way the data comes out. This is not the way data is being sent. But the front end is presenting it to the user that is going to use it to have more information about that raw data. The same thing too, you can see how the stuff is coming in, but right now you don't need it. Later on too, you are going to see how to do something like this because as a front end, then you need to be able to communicate with the back end to get the data. And once this thing is loaded, you'll see that there's some communication that will be done with the back end to get data. Then once that data is back, then they will display it to the user. The data is, as you can see, a series of call. So this the front end is making call to the back end to get the information to show to the user. Then once those information are back, then it will be presented to the user in a meaningful way. And there's a lot of crazy stuff that is going on here like that. But a lot of things that is coming back, the way they comes back, they are not like the way the use. This thing doesn't make sense to the user. But by the time it gets here, the URL will be displayed in a way that the user will have more information about what is going on. But this data is coming from somewhere. It's being stored and it's being retrieved from somewhere. That is the back end. And we're not going to be focusing on that. What we'll be focusing on is how to present whatever data that is coming from the back end to the front end or to the end user there like that. But it's not every time that we are going to have the two of them. Sometimes we can have only the back end, and anybody that needs it will just go there and retrieve whatever they want. It doesn't need you don't need to have front. If you have back end, doesn't mean you must have front end. And if you have front end, it doesn't mean you must have back end. It all depends on the type of the site you are working with. So we have some sites that they are known as static sites. So when you're talking about static, it means their content, you already have them. Once you put there, that's the content that is going to be there. From now till internet or the time you make changes to it again. It's always the same. It doesn't change. So those are the stuff we are going to start with here because we don't want to start going into the advanced stuff of getting data. So whatever we're going to be working on is something that is already there, that is not changing. We just try to mimic those design are there. But some of them, they are known as dynamic site. Like YouTube now, that one is dynamic because the user that logs in determine the content you are going to see. It's the same interface, but the content you are going to see there is depending on who logs in into the platform. So if you log in as your own account there now, you see that if you don't upload any video, you are going to see that it will be empty because there is no data for you. But if I logged in, the same interface, I'm going to have my own data there. So the data is dynamic based on who logs in. That means there is front end and there is back end working together there. But for the static one, you don't need back end. What you just want to do is to present the data to the user. For example, like portfolio now, you already know your portfolio. Oh, this is my name. These are the works I've worked on in the past. This is about me and so forth. Like that. All those data, they're already available and it's not something that will change like that. So those one, they are static content and you can use them for a static website. So when you're talking about static, it means the content you have there are not changing every time, or it doesn't depend on who is checking the site or the page. But if the content is depending on which, that means the content is dynamic. And some of those content too can actually be static that you save them somewhere, but it's still depending on whoever is checking on the stuff like that. So we have the front end, you have the back end, and you have the full stack, which combine the two of them together. And people that works on the front end, we call them the front end developer, like that. And people that work on the back end, we call them back end developer, and the full stack developer, like that. So they say they are looking for a full stack developer. What they are telling you that you must be able to handle both the front end and the back end. But which language? So that one too will be specified there that this is language, because back end they have different language. But when you're talking about front end, it's always the same. The language that we have for front end, the basic one, is the HTML language, which is the language you are going to use to talk to the browser to display different elements you are seeing on the screen here. So this is one element on its own, like that. This is another element on its own. This is another element. This is another element, and so forth like that. Everything you're seeing on the screen, they are known as elements. There like that. So each stuff you are seeing on the screen, they are known as element. We have the text element. We have the image element, like that. All this one are still text in this way. We have the image element. You have the video element, and so forth like that. Depending on the element you are looking at there. But how do you generate all these elements? So how do you talk to the browser to give you a particular element? That's where the HTML comes in. So we use the HTML language, HTML there, to talk to the browser to give us a specific element. Then the next one we have is the CSS, which is what you use to style your element. Now I mentioned it before that the stuff that this site is using here is what Shopify too is using. But the difference there is how the style plates are there. So you use CSS to customize your element based on the branding that you are dealing with on the site there. Like the button you are seeing here is still the same button that you are going to see on the Mayoverse site like that. So the button you are seeing here is still the same thing, but look at the way this button is behaving. Look at this one too. They are the same, but the way it's doing here like is quite different from the way it's being shown at this side. If you go to another side too, like that, I see that it's here too. But you know the style now is done. So you use CSS to achieve all this thing. The element you are using here is still the same element you'll be using, same element you'll be using here, but the styling is different based on what you want to do at that point. The same thing too. If you look at this one, it's still the same thing that is here. The feed that you're seeing here is still that same feed here. The difference is always the styling, and that's why you see that if you see somebody that knows how to do this thing, they can easily clone a site because they knows how it works behind the scene. The difference is what you just do is to style it in that way that you are seeing that site there like that. So you have element to generate, or you have what to do, the HTML to generate all these elements, but you have the CSS to make them look like the way you want it to look to the user there like that. So once you know the style, or once you know how to do this thing, you'll see that this thing is going to pop out and it's going to be displayed the way you want it to be to the user there like that. Let me close this thing. So this is HTML and CSS. But it doesn't stop there. We have the powerful man that needs to come in, which is a JavaScript, because that's what add interaction to the content you have on the page. So after you've displayed the content, like if you are dealing with just simple stuff and you don't need the user to interact with it there, HTML and CSS is okay. But a lot of things we have these days, you have sprinkle of interaction to that your site. Even if it's just simple stuff, it's still going to have a little bit of interaction there like that. But if it's something that you don't want interaction, then it's you're quite okay with HTML and CSS. But you need JavaScript in order for you to be able to add interaction or when you want to build a web application. So when you're building normal sites, I mean just to display information, nothing, they just go there, check the information, leave. HTML and CSS is okay. But when you need to interact with the user that is checking that your site, then JavaScript have to comes in there to add that interaction, because a lot of all these elements, they are dumb. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to interact with the user. Some of them they have the predefined styling for them or predefined action for them. But like sometimes too, that action you don't want them. You want to change it to another action there like that. So you need JavaScript. So JavaScript can control your HTML and it can control your CSS like that. So it can give it. So this is the site. As you can see, nothing much on this, but here now, JavaScript is needed for here. And why do we need JavaScript? Because anytime I click on this stuff, you see that it opens up the content, even though there is no content there right now because it's still in development there like that. But if I click on this, you see that look at the icon there, it's changing based on the one that you click on there. So JavaScript will be the one that is going to give you this, because this icon here doesn't know that it's supposed to change to plus when it is not open and it's supposed to change to minus when it is open. So JavaScript will be the one that, okay, once this thing is clicked, do something like this here and do another thing from here, because you can do multiple stuff based on whatever you want to do there like that. So anytime it is clicked, change this one to this, then open up whatever that is under it, and again closes any other one that is open there like that. So JavaScript, combining the three of them together now, you have the power to build anything for the browser. So whether it is normal website, it is a static website, it is dynamic website, or it is web application, anything you want to build, those three are what you need first. And after that, when you are now building something that is really large, then you can now go into what we call framework. So when you're talking about framework now, these are tooling that simplify the process of you using the three of them together like that. So front end have their own framework, back end have their own framework. They are, on the back end there's a lot of languages they can use there. So you have the JavaScript there that you can use for the back end. You have the C Sharp, you have the Python, and a lot of them there like that. So they can be used for back end. But the three languages that you're going to be using for front end is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then you can have a framework developed on them. And what is framework? They are a set of tooling that are there to simplify the process of you working with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript there. HTML doesn't need too much of framework. Where you're going to be seeing framework is the CSS and the JavaScript. So for CSS now, the most popular framework that we have now is known as this Tailwind CSS like that. So this one simplify the process of you creating the CSS, because it brought a lot of things already for you. You don't need to start implementing them every time again and again and again like that. As you can see, Tailwind help you to build website fast, because you don't need to start doing a lot of things. It have all the necessary utility classes that you can use to develop your site. You just need to call what they are giving you, and it's going to come to. But now if I scroll down, as you can see, all these things they are doing now, it will look jargons to you, someone that is just coming. And that's the reason why they are framework. You don't start with them. You start with the basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript first. Then when you are good with those one, not that you that good, you just understand them, then you'll be able to know what is going on. So what they are doing here is just normal HTML code. Everything you are seeing here is just normal HTML code. Just that this Tailwind is that comes in to quickly give you some stuff you can use to fast track your CSS styling. And as you can see, as they are changing some stuff here, is making this thing to come to life. But if you want to do it yourself, like this thing that they just typed now, is going to this MD alone is going to take you like 3 lines when you are doing it normally in CSS. That MD alone will takes you like 3 lines again, because you have to in your CSS you have to specify this MD just talking about the screen size, and that's what we call later on you are going to understand this when we get to the responsive design. So if you look at the way everything looks like here now. So if I reduce the screen size, we will reduce the screen size like this. You see that some stuff are going to readjust. See that their position now is different. On small screen, like that, you can see these two buttons, they are on top of each other. But once you go to a bigger screen, you'll see that now they are side by side. The image too is now at that center. This is what we call responsive design, because not all the screen can accommodate all this content. So what you have to do is to rearrange them. So to do something like this with normal CSS, you are going to type a lot of lines of code. But with that framework, which is Tailwind, is just simple line that you type and you are going to achieve the same thing. So it make you type less and achieve the same thing as what you are going to do with more code in CSS. And that's why they are called framework, because they are there to simplify. They are not there to replace. They are there to simplify. They are not replacing whatever knowledge you had before. That's why you have to have knowledge of all those things first before you start going into the framework. Again, too, for JavaScript, it have its own framework too, and there's a lot of framework for that one. You have something like like jQuery, all those one are old. The same, but the new things that we have now is they are old too, but they are still the one reigning. So we have Angular, we have the Vue.js, but the most popular one is what we call the React. They're like that. Even if you go to this side, the sample they are going to quickly give you is for the framework of React. There like that. So uh, React JS like this. So this is a UI library that help you to build UI quickly without you doing a lot of JavaScript code. So this one helps you to combine HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code together without you doing a lot of work like that. But you need knowledge of JavaScript, and for you to be dealing with JavaScript, that means you need HTML and you need CSS like that. So it makes it easier for you to build user interface quickly without you doing a lot of work. But we're not going to jump into them first, because if you just jump into them, you started seeing their stuff, it will look like they are doing one kind of magic stuff. They are not doing any magic. It's because they already assume you've passed through those basic stage first before you start jumping into this thing. So you can see using vanilla JS. Vanilla, anytime you hear the word vanilla, it means you are using plain JavaScript. You are not using any framework. It's just normal JavaScript. That's what we call vanilla. But if you look at it, you have to be managed. These are the things you have to be doing yourself. But with the help of this thing here, with the help of React, it can make this thing easy for you. So you don't need to just describe what you want. It will handle the remaining stuff for you like that. You can see the same thing that we saw there, like this div or something. But what is this return? What is function? What is import? All these things coming from JavaScript. Nobody will telling you what is this is the word import, because assume that for you to be here, it means you already have knowledge of JavaScript. So all these import function, all these bracket, curly brace are here, they are coming from JavaScript. Why this one is coming from HTML? Because it helps you to combine all of them together to build your interface there, which is the graphical user, which is UI there like that. So nobody will be telling you this is what function is doing, this is what this one is doing. They will just focus on the React part like that. And that's the reason why we need to start with the basic. And in order for you to start developing, there are some things you need to have on your computer there. And one of them is what you said you've already downloaded there, which is the VS Code, which is the most popular source code editor these days. We have some other one that you might need to install it, but VS Code 2 we do there. But I will advise you to download this anti-gravity because this one here is VS Code 2, is a VS Code clone, but it comes with inbuilt AI already. So you don't need to start installing AI into this thing. VS Code 2 have it. Let me. Yes, this it have this one too. They have this, but the one I'm talking about is not that you have to come here yourself. As you are typing, you will start getting suggestion out of the box because it's not every when you are working. That's the reason you are downloading this stuff to simplify the process of you building the site because you don't want to type everything yourself. That's waste of time. Whatever you want to do, there is always a time frame attached to it that you need to finish all this thing. Not that you have 1 year to be doing this or 20 years or something. There's a time frame and that frame is always short because you always want to get this thing out. And luckily for all you guys these days, AI is there to simplify things. We are going to see how to use it too because these days you must incorporate AI into your workflow. If not, you are going behind there like that because nobody types everything with hand. And that's why I want you to download this at the Gravity because like that. But you can still use VS Code, but which is what I'm going to be using here too. But you can download this at the Gravity too. They come with inbuilt AI. They have what they call agents, which you can give agent that what these are the computer that you can give work to do for you. So you just tell them what you want, and they will start carrying out the action. Your own is just to be directing and checking what they are doing and so forth like that. But VS Code to have it just that you need to have a copilot. They have copilot, but that one now it require payment. Even though these are the Gravity too, you might need to, but they give you some tokens for you to use free before they start asking for all those this thing. So you can use, I'm going to be using VS Code here too for now like that. So I have the VS Code installed already. And again, VS Code too, you need to know how to interact with it. So for example, here now, as you can see on my screen, I have this project here that has been opened. And as you can see, we can do a lot of things with it. But I'm going to close all this so and start from the scratch. So I'm going to close folder. So whatever project you're working with, you can always create. So the way you enjoy VS Code is by working with a project. And what do you call a project here? Project is just a folder that contain all the file for the particular website or the particular project you are working with. So when I say project, it's just like website that you are focusing on at that particular time. You don't just create a file, a single file. It doesn't give you full package of VS Code. In order for you to enjoy VS Code, you have to open a dedicated folder. And inside that folder, that is where you have all the files that are related to that particular site there. And the way I used to do my things, I have a structure that I follow. So for my trainings, I have where I used to put it. That's the way you do your things. So you just have a dedicated folder for your this in there like that. So I have under Mayoverse here. So I'm going to add this and I'm going to add the class 8 here and I'm going to call it class 8, come outside. So I'm going to call it class 8. You can call your own name. You can just say web development training. But again, look at what I just did here. You see that where I'm supposed to add space, I remove the spacing. Like you see that instead of having class then space 8, I use underscore to bridge. You can use hyphen because when you are dealing with URL later on, all the naming that you have with this thing, they are going to be part of the URL. So which I'm going to talk about more later on. But if you have space there, space is not recognized as part of UI because once you put space, it means you've already separated them. But your folder is having space. So how do you replace it? So they have symbol that we normally use to replace all those special character that the URL did not support. So when you're talking about space, it is a %2F or something like that. But you don't want to be cramming all these things. So that's why you use something that the browser can recognize as part of the URL. So anyway, you need to have space. Either you close the space or you use underscore or hyphen to bridge that. Because when you're typing it, if you're going to put space in the URL like that, it will not accept it because URL is not the space is not a valid URL. Even though on Windows, it might work, but you know, you can run your site on different operating system. And when you even put it online later on, they don't use Windows to deploy because Windows is really big. What we use online is Linux there because it's small, the size is small. So you can quickly deploy a Linux server there like that, where you Server is where you save all this thing, because when you build your site later on, it needs to be accessible to everybody. The main website that you are seeing right now is not just on my system that it works. You can type it, the address too, on your system, and it will work. But whatever we're going to be doing right now is only going to be available on the system. But in order for people to have access to it, you need to make it available to them. And that's what we call deployment. So you deploy your site. And we have different platform online that you can use to deploy your site. The one we're going to be using later on is known as this Cloudflare, because they give us free deployment and even free domains. It will create the free domain for you, and it's going to give you the free deployment where you can deploy your normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Even you can deploy React there. It will deploy the stuff like that. For example, here do you still have? I don't think I have it here. I have this already. Yeah. So this thing now for the Valentine that I did for my this thing. After developing it, I need to make sure that she can access it on her system. What did I do? I deploy it on Cloudflare for free. And as you can see, I was able to get free domain there, which is this worker then dot dev like that. So and from there, this is this site. This is what we did with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, along with Tailwind and React there. And the reason I have to use React is to, and Tailwind is to simplify the process of me building, because I did this thing within 2 hours or so like that to do. But it's helped with the AI too. AI generate the UI sample for me. Then based on that, I now code it out there, because designing UI is not our own job. That is the job of the UI UX. They give you the design, then you now translate it into what the user is going to work with there. Because what they do is prototype. Then that prototype, you will now translate it to what the user can use. So I use the AI now, is my UI UX designer. It gave me the design, even along with the code. But I have to make some adjustments to the code so that it looks like the way I want it to be. Because there are some things he did here, like his own now. This thing was not big like this. It's just tiny. But from my own, I make it bigger. Again, to the text he was using here, I have to adjust the text, do a lot of things. Even all this thing that is moving up here, this is not the way they are moving up like that. Again, to this side was not having this background like this. It's just one plain background they use. But after this, so I had my own little things, and again the pictures, I gave it the picture to use, he put it, then from there make changes to some of them like that, and a lot of things. This one was not there. I'm the one that added it so that it links to my this, anybody that clicks it now, it will link it to my GitHub account. What is GitHub? You know about it later on too, like that. So you know about this GitHub because this is where you are going to be saving all your code, not on your system, because anything can happen to the system. And again, to this is where you collaborate with other developers like that. So anybody that wants to see the code for the stuff now, they can always come here and they are going to see the code for it once I go under this repository. For all this one, you are going to get them later on like that. So we use Cloudflare. We're going to be using Cloudflare to deploy our site freely so that you can always share with your friend, okay, this is what I just did. Can you go there and check it out and so forth like that? Because whatever you're going to be doing for now is only going to be on your system. But we're going to be using Cloudflare to deploy them later on once we get to the part that is meaningful for us to deploy like that. But this is what we are going to be doing in general. So we have a predefined design, then we follow those designs so that's how you learn. You work on something that is already there so that you see the stuff, because that's how you'll be working later too. The designer will give you the design, then you replicate that design or bring it to life. So we're going to be having different design on this system. I'm going to be sharing with you too later on. You go there, you pick anyone you want, then you design it using the knowledge that you're going to be gaining from this class. And the first one is for you to be able to know how to navigate your way around the VS Code, which is what I started with here by creating a dedicated folder. If you have the folder already, just go there, click on it, and select folder. But if you don't have it, create it, then click on that one that you want, and you click on select folder. So VS Code is going to reload, and once you reload, it will change the interface. As you can see now, the interface is quite different from the way it is before. So what you see here is the name of the folder that you open, which is under this Explorer. So your own is not going to be at the top like this. is going to be by the side, but you can actually change it. Let me see. Like that. Let me. Yeah. So as you can see, once you click on this, so you see where you can move or where you can adjust all the settings for your this in there. So these are different ways where you can customize everything for your status, the panel, like that. So you can customize anywhere you want to place them. So if I place this one to the, where is it? I place this one to the left, or if I want, I can place it to the right, to the center, or anywhere. But this is the major, where is it? Loading. Let me wait for it. Yeah, so as you can see now, I've moved that my status now to this side instead of by this side. So it all depends on how you want the stuff to be, but I prefer it on the left like that. Some people, you see that they put their this in because they want to be looking at the code by this side. But me, I always love to see the code here, and this is where it is by default like that. Again, too, it have this one that you can change this one too from the side to the top. Where did they put that one? Let me, it should be here too. The setting is here. Let me, primary sidebar like that. Which is this, but that's not, yep. So you can remove the activities, but I don't want to remove it. I want to change the side. You can always go to preference too, like that. And from here, you can customize all the settings you want for your VS Code there. But the major thing here is that we have this Explorer, which is what you're going to be using a lot, like that. And this is where you're going to be creating all the files and folder for the particular project you're working on. So we have this icon here to quickly create file, and we have this one to quickly create a folder. But you need to know how to use it. Again, you can right click on any on the stuff. You still see the full option here. But since these two, you're always going to be doing them a lot. That's why it is here to quickly click on it. So if I click on this one now, as you can see, it will open this thing for you. So now let's for you to create the file that you want there, like that. So this one is going to create the file. And when you're dealing with files, you need to put the extension, because that's how VS Code is going to know how to work with that files. And you know, every file you want to work with, they have their extension. So for the HTML now, the extension you are going to be using is HTML. For the CSS, it's still the same name, CSS. And for JavaScript, we have JS. So those are the three extensions that you are going to be working with for now. But when you get to React later on, you'll be seeing something like JSX like that. So you'll be seeing something like JSX as extension. But for now, you are going to see something like app.js once we get to the JavaScript part. And for the CSS, once we get there, you are going to see like CSS like this. And if you look at it, you're going to see that my this in colors is different from your own. So why? Because I've really customized my VS Code a lot. The color code too is going to be different, but the functionality are going to be the same like that. You too, you can customize everything about VS Code by just going to File, Preference. As you can see, there is theme section there. So you can, the color theme is the entire theme, the file icon like that. And again, we have the product icon there. So file icon and all this one, the product icon, you're going to see them too, but I've changed a lot of this thing by installing extension. So VS Code work with extension. You extend it, and where do you see extension? So it have the marketplace, which is this extension. You are going to see by that side too. It's always there too. Down, it is down. Just, yeah, that's it. So once you click on it, it brings out the extension that you've installed and the recommended one. And again, you can search for any extension like that. So as you can see, this one, I've installed a lot of all this one before. So it said it is being duplicated. So that's why it's showing all this one. So the one I need to update is showing them. The one I need to migrate is showing them. And it shows some of the recommended one too. And if you look at it, I have almost like 30 something, but it's not all, you don't have up to that. It's because based on the work that I'm doing and some other thing like that. So that's like that. But for now, you don't need up to that. And I'm going to be showing you all those one that you are going to be installing on your this in there. The first one you need to have, if you've connected to internet now, you can go there. The first one you need to have is known as this live server. So this live server is going to save you a lot when you are editing your file and you want to be seeing the changes instantly on the browser. Now, as you are changing your code, you want the browser to load the stuff for you instantly. So you need the live server, the first one there, because they have different types. So the live server, so that's the first one that you need. The other one that you're going to be needing here is known as Prettier. So this is the one that is going to format your code, because you don't want to be, as you're typing, you still don't want to be doing the formatting yourself. That's tedious work because you have a lot of things to do. Your own is to focus on the goal, which is to bring all the necessary stuff to life. But the code editor should be able to handle every other petty work for you. So Prettier, you need it so that it will be able to format your code. Anytime you save, it will rearrange your code properly there like that. Not that even if you scatter the code, once you save, it will bring them back the way they are supposed to be arranged, because you don't just code anyhow. You code not for now, but for you to be able to check it later. Like whatever you write now, you should be able to come back in 6 months and still understand what is going on. Not that you do something now, you now come back later on why everything is. At the moment you are doing it, it will like you understand it all. But once you leave it and come back, because you've already gone to another work, you started looking at, am I the one that do this thing? But if everything is arranged properly, it will be easier to navigate and move around there like that. And that's the reason why you are here, not just it's something you can learn on your own, but there's something they are not going to talk about until you get into the field or you are close to someone that is really working with it. Because it's not just about teaching alone, it's about teaching how to use it. Because the difference between you are learning something just for learning sake and you are learning something for use. And that's the reason why most tutorials, when you do them to do things yourself, it always hard, because you are following what the person is doing. The person is not telling the reason why that thing is being done in that way. So that when you too get to your own time, oh, because this person, he mentioned that because this is the reason why he did something like this. So maybe let me to apply it in this way, or let me to apply that knowledge here and so forth like that. That's how this thing works. So let me update my VS Code. And once it's done with the updates there, we move into the next step, which is you need to know how to interact with VS Code files. Because when you're working with a project, the way it arranges files is quite different from the normal files. Because you're not going to be typing all the files like that directly. You have to organize your project. You don't just type anything anyhow. So those files, you put them in their correct way. The one that you need to create folder for, you create folder for them. The one that doesn't need to be in the folder, they are going to stand on their own. So creating code is not just about typing alone. You must be able to organize your code in a meaningful way like that. So let me close this. And as you can see, I have this. Now imagine I'm working with a site that have like maybe 20 pages. And some of these pages too, they are kind of in a group. Like for example, you have the blog, you have the authentication part where you're going to have login, sign up. So all those things, you should be able to group them according to what they are doing. So you can create a folder. But everything you are doing here, don't forget, it's still happening in your project folder. Whatever project folder you open is going to do all of them there. So yeah, you can just call this one. So this is where I used to arrange my stuff. So I have HTML folder first. So everything, anytime I learn HTML the first time, everything are going to be inside that folder. But look at it now. After I created this folder, you see that there is one particular line around it. There is a line around it. From your own, based on your team, it's going to be blue line. Once you click on any file there by the edge, you see that there is a line around them. But the one that you need to pay attention to is the folder. If it is file, it means or let me start with folder. If it is folder, what that thing means is that anytime you try to do anything with these two, it's going to put it under that one that have that line. So now if I try to click on this, you see that it is under HTML. It's no longer under this class 8 again. But if I want it to be under class 8, just click on empty area. Or anywhere you want to put it, click on that thing first. But for the class 8, which is your project folder. So if you want to select your project folder in your Explorer, you have to click on the empty area. So once you click empty area, you can see now the line is now around everything. So which means whatever you do with these two is going to put it directly inside class 8. But if the line is around HTML, this whatever you do with these two, it will happen inside that folder. So if I want to create it here, I need to click outside first because I don't want to put inside HTML. Then I will have my CSS. So see that line is still there. So click outside and then I will have JS. Again, click outside. Then from there, we have the project folder like this. And so forth. Other folder too are going to come in. But this is what I have right now. So all this one that I have here too, they are not going to be here. So you can always move them into any folder. Maybe you create something where you are not supposed to create it. Just drag it to where you want it and it's going to move it there. The same thing, the HTML will go inside that place, but I don't want this thing to be asking me in again. So I'll just move it like that. So for the CSS too, I'm going to move it inside CSS folder. And you can see things are getting organized. The one I don't need, you collapse it, and the one you need at that moment, you open it. Or if you have it open here already, VS Code is going to open it folder too automatically for you like that. So anyone you're interacting with, it will open the folder and you're going to see everything inside the folder like that. So this is how you are going to be organizing your project there later on like that. But now we need to start with the HTML, which is our first language. So this is the language that you use to talk to the browser to generate all the elements that you want to show to the user. Whether you are displaying text, you are displaying image, or you are displaying video, audio, any kind of content you are going to see on the page, it has to come through HTML. The browser cannot load CSS directly. It cannot load JavaScript directly. Everything has to come from the HTML. So the browser will pass or it will interpret HTML. Then whatever it now sees there, it will put it on the page. You can't just load CSS directly. It will just show you the content. If you load your CSS from the browser, it will just show you everything you have in there. But if it is HTML, it's going to interpret everything you have inside that HTML. But when you're dealing with HTML, there's structure you need to follow. You don't just create your HTML anyhow to know. That's where the name is coming from. HTML is just the hypertext markup language. So it has structure. Everything here, they have structure. Even though HTML is forgiving, even though if you do some stuff wrongly, it might try to correct you, or you just go to the page, something will not display, or some is going to display correctly. But it's not like that from JavaScript. Everything must be okay. And that's why people used to, like the beginner used to hate it because it's not forgiving. You have to do things properly. But yeah, you have to have a structure. And to generate a structure is simple in VS Code. Just type HTML like this. So once you type HTML like this, it will bring out the option for you. This option or this thing suggestion that is coming here, we call it melt, as you can see the name. So melt abbreviation is part of VS Code automatically. You don't need to install anything. Once you install VS Code, it comes with it. And this is for each language you're dealing with, it has its own melt for it. So it's going to give you suggestion like autocomplete. So this HTML is one of them, which is going to help you to generate, as you can see now, it generates HTML like that. But that's not the one I need. The one I actually need is the one with this HTML5 here. So this one is going to generate HTML5 structure. That means version 5 of HTML, which is the current HTML we are using right now. We have HTML1, we have 2, all the way to 5. But the current HTML we have right now is version 5. But this is version 4, or this is HTML like that. But the one we need is just HTML5. This one is a simplified way of creating your structure for HTML. HTML4, you have to go online to go and copy what you need to type. But with HTML5, they simplify things. Like you can even type it yourself. You don't need VS Code to generate it for you like that. So once you click on this second one, you see it will generate the structure of the HTML for us like that. And as you can see, this is the structure of any web page, any site you see online. This is the basic structure that you are going to see on all of them. Any HTML built on HTML5, this is the basic structure you always see there. So the first line is talking to the browser, the type of the HTML you are using, and this is how we specify HTML5 that you are using HTML5. The other one is just this tag here, which is known as a HTML. So every other element you want to have, they are going to be under this HTML. But HTML is divided into two parts. We have the edge part and we have the body part. So this body part is where you're going to put all the content you want to show to the user. And this is the head. This is where you put extra information for the browser to understand your site. Some of the information here is the title. So some of the information is the title, which is what you are seeing at this side. So this text you are seeing here, this is what we call the title. So if I go to another page like this partner now, you'll see that that one too have its own title. So each page, so this is one page. A page is just your HTML file. So when I'm talking about page, it means you are creating HTML file. So if you look at this page now, it's known as partnership and collaboration. And you see that where it's supposed to be space, see that it's hyphen there. There is no space because space is legal in the naming. This is. So if I go to events now, see that that one is another page alone. So this is events page like that, and it have its own content that you want to show to the user on that page. So if I go to the about now, this is another page. And to create them in your normal in your this thing, so you are going to have different HTML files. So for the about, we are going to have about.html. So for the event, it's going to be event.html. So for the partnership too, that one too is going to be here and so forth like that. But each one of the pages are going to have this structure there, where you are going to be defining the title of the page. That's what the browser will pick it up. So the browser will pick it up. When you want to bookmark this page, it's going to be part of the name that the browser will use to bookmark the stuff like that. If you want to bookmark the stuff, title, as you can see, the same title is what is going to use as the name of the bookmark out of the book, because you use that edge to supply information to the browser. Whatever you put in the edge, they are not going to be here. It's not for user. It's for the browser to use and have extra information about the site. But the actual stuff you want to display to the user, have to be inside the body. So all this content you are seeing here, they are inside the body and different elements. So we have the text, but the text is divided into two. We have the heading text. You can see that those one are bold, and we have the paragraph text. So we have different stuff to use to bring all this one out. But it's the same one that is being used here is what is being used here. The difference is just the content that you have inside them like that. So we have different elements to bring all this in out. So you have the image, and from there you use your CSS to make it come up the way you want it to be. So we're going to be talking about all the necessary elements to generate all the text that you want like that. So if you look at this, see that this thing pops up, you go there, it leaves. That's CSS in action there like that. So once I'm on top of this thing, it will pop the stuff out like that. So clicking on this, then it will take me to the page that you have the content there. So this, you can see again, this is the heading text, this is the paragraph text, you have the button, and you have the button too, and you have the CSS like that. But some of these buttons, they are links. So which means they connect one page to another page. So we have different elements that you can use to generate all these items. Again, we have table that you can use to present your items in a tabular form like that, because it needs to be presented in a way that they can see all the information at once like that, and different stuff that you are going to be seeing there like that. So how do you generate all these elements? We're going to see how to have all of them like that. So, and the way you're doing this, they have the structure where you have the title. So this one, I'm going to call it the first HTML page or like that, or you can call it the home page. So index is special to the browser or to any site. Index.html is special to any site. So what this means is that when you go to any site and you don't mention the page that you want to go to, the browser will load this index automatically. So whether you mention the index or you don't mention it, anytime you go to any site and you don't mention the pages you are going to, it will load the content of index.html. But if you name it home, you must always type home, because home is not, the browser doesn't care about that name. The only thing that the browser care about is that index. Every other one that you are creating yourself, you have to go to that page and you do slash that name of the HTML file you are looking for like that. So we have this first. Let me type this first correctly. Then inside the body, this is where you put all the content you want to show to the user there, like that. So, and we have different type of content, just like we have mentioned. We have the text content, but when you're talking about text, we have the paragraph and we have the heading text, like that. So when you're talking about the heading one, we have the H1 all the way to H6. So these are the heading. You can use it to generate different levels of heading. So the highest one is H1, so which means you use that one if it is the major heading. It's not even because you can customize everything. You can make H1 to look like H6 and H6 to look like H1 with your CSS, but you are going to be using them correctly. The major heading on the page should always be H1. But if you now add subheading after that, then you go to H2. If there's another subheading to that H2, you go to H3 and so forth like that. But if they are of the same heading level, then you keep using that same tag in different places. That's how it is. So, but with CSS, you can make H1 to be smaller than like the H6, even though by default H1 is bigger than, because the browser have come with predefined styling for some of these elements, but you can change it yourself using CSS, like that. So that's how it works, because the element you are seeing here, where is it? Let me go to this side. So the element you are seeing here is it the same one down. As you can see, this one is it the same thing, but the colors are quite different. The background here too is different. They are the same. So with CSS, you can make one element to behave different way, or the one that is smaller to be bigger than the other one. You are the one in charge, and now you can see the structure here is the structure here, but the difference here is that the icon color is not the same icon color, but they are alternate. So the way it is here, to reverse at the side. So you have the power to do anything you want. So it depends on the design you are trying to achieve, or what you are trying to do. The same thing here is what you have there, but the colors are different. The structure is the same. So HTML will give you the structure, but the CSS is what you are going to use to design that structure the way you want it there, like that. So H1 is one of our heading text, and here you can see the year I started comes in there, but I'm not using the one in VS Code directly. I'm using this Windsurf here, like that. So, but this one you have to create an account with them before. As you can see, I'm logged in with my Gmail, like just to log in with your Gmail. But this one is known as Windsurf, like that. So once you search its extension too, because everything in VS Code you install the extension. So Windsurf plugin like that. So once you search for Windsurf, you just install it. It will ask you to log in for the first time. Then you log in with your Google accounts there, and you start using the stuff. But what I'm going to be using most of the time is known as this Lorem. This is another thing that is inside VS Code to generate a placeholder text. So this Lorem in VS Code generates some random text. If you don't mention the number of words you want, it will generate 25 by default. But if I want it to generate 6 random Latin nonsense word like that. And once I press enter now, you see that it will generate it. And if you count it, it's going to be 6. But if you don't mention the number you want, it will generate 25. So this one is useful when you have a design, but you don't have the content at that moment. So you do the design and you use this placeholder text. So when the text is now available, or when the content is available, then you now replace it with it, because you don't need to wait for the content. You do your own work down. Then when those content are now there, then you now replace them with it. So I'm going to be using it a lot because I can't be typing like that. Again, we have the paragraph, as you can see already is breaking this, but what I'm going to do is here is to do lorem 35 like that, and it's going to generate 35 words for me. But look at the way things is. Look at the code now. As you can see, I have to be scrolling left and right before seeing every other content. So what you can do here yourself is start to, oh, let me just press enter and start. That's waste of time. We have extension to do this for us, and that's prettier. It formats your code based on the predefined setting, that the standard setting that is there, but you can customize it too. But the standard setting that is here is okay for you for now. Once I press Ctrl S now, as you can see, it move everything automatically and arrange it. Even if I do some crazy stuff here, maybe I added some unnecessary spacing. Look at it here. The browser knows that he knows that all this spacing now
they are not necessary on the page, because in your code, even though you put spacing like this on the browser, it's just a single space. Multiple space will be collapsed to a single space, and that's the reason why you are able to put all this, you are able to format your code in this way. Assuming the browser is displaying the spacing that you are putting your code to, it means by the time you get here, your L will start from here, not from the edge. So by the time you get to the browser, this is where it started from, but it will be starting at the edge. So the browser is not following all this your spacing in. So Prettier knows all these spacing are unnecessary. So if I save it now, it knows that it's supposed to remove those spacing. But if you don't activate it, because it doesn't activate itself, you have to activate it first, and I'm going to show you. But if you don't have it installed, or you don't have it activated here, whatever stuff you are doing here, it will be like that. But on the page, it will never show in that way. So to activate your extension, which is a Prettier, that you need to install first. So once you are done installing it, you can go to preference, then you are going to see the settings like this. So you're going to see the setting, you just click on the settings. So once you click on it, VS Code will bring out the setting for you. You can quickly search from here by just saying default like that. Instead of going to editor to start looking for it, just type default. It will bring out, as you can see, the first thing you're going to see there is default formatter. What default formatter do you want to use? So by default for your own end, it will be none. So what you need to do is to change it to Prettier. So what you need to do is to change it to Prettier like that. Then once you are done, you can type the format in the URL like that, with the address bar again. Then from there, you are going to say format or save. You can see that is when you save that you want to format. So you click that option. So no, you have to search for format so that it can bring it up. You can scroll down, you can start going to editor, but that's instead of, because there's a lot of settings. No, that's not it. You have to search for format. It's checkbox, not drop down. So type format at the top, where you type that default before. So just type format so that it bring all the settings for formatting. So once you type format, you can see that is format on save. So click on it. Is it active already? Is it checked? Yeah. So once it's checked, then close your setting. That's all. So the Prettier is active like that. So what you're saying is that anytime you save your code, it will kick in. So you've talked to VS Code that anytime want to format, it will use Prettier by default. But you can actually change it to any other thing later on. But default formatting is Prettier. So now, once you do anything in your code and you save, you see that Prettier will come in like that. And you're going to see it by the bottom right here, which the double mark. So if it mark, it means everything is okay. But if it turn to red, it means you've done something wrong and it cannot format that your code. Once you see red in Prettier, it's telling you that something is wrong with your HTML that needs to be fixed there. And you can click on it so that it brings out the panel for it. And you're going to sometimes it will tell you where the error is coming from that you can fix. So once you click on it, it will bring out the Prettier setting or the console there like that. And you're going to see where you had the mistake. But for now, there is no mistake. But for example now, assuming I start with this P, but I did not close the P like this, and I try to format it like that. See that it bring this one out, but sometimes there's something that you cannot recover from. As you can see now, you can see once it cannot do the stuff, it will turn red. So once you open it, then it will tell you where the problem, where is detecting problem. Where is detecting problem might not be that's where the problem is coming from, but it's always going to be that line upward, not downward. In the coding space, when you have error and it's reporting error for you on a particular line, that doesn't mean that's the line where the error is coming from. It's going to be that line and upward. So if you check that line, you did not see anything, that means you have to check upward, not downward. The error, because it already stopped on that line, did not continue after that line. So you have to check from that line upward. So you check and you keep scrolling up, it will tell you, sometimes it will tell you, sometimes it doesn't, because this one says you cannot even recover from it because it did not find any valid HTML code here. And I can see again too, look at what I'm doing. I changed one part before, so let me just do this. So before I change one part, as you can see, the other part is changing. I type PI down here, I did not type it up here. It's changing up. There's another extension. From your own end, if you don't have extension, it will not work like that. So it means anytime you want to change your this in here, tag, you have to go back to the other one too and change. But that's waste of time. So we have extension that can do, because when your HTML is really long, it's kind of tedious to be moving up and down to be looking for, because a lot of them you are going to reuse it a lot. You know, the difference between them is the styling. But in your HTML code, it's still the same thing, you'll be same. So when they are the same and you have a lot of them, it's kind of tedious to keep going up and down looking for that particular one that matches. So instead of you doing that, you can use auto rename. So we have this auto rename tag. So this one, once you change one of them, as you can see, this is it here, auto rename tag. So what it will do for you is that once you change one of the tag, it will change the corresponding one for it, the one you change like that. So it's very important. This is another important section that you're going to be using later on like that. So anytime you make changes to the tag, it will update the corresponding tag. But I've been talking about tag since. What is tag? Tag is what you use to generate the element that you want to see on the screen. No, we said we're going to be displaying element on the screen. Everything that you're seeing on the screen is element. But how do you talk to the browser that this is a particular element you want to generate? That's where the tag comes in. So use the tag to generate the HTML element. So some people can tell you generate the element or generate the tag. What they say is you generate the element, you use the tag to generate that element. But you can call it tag, you can call it element, but they are distinct. There is a little bit of a difference there. What you are seeing on the screen is the element. What you are using to generate it is the tag. But you can call it tag or you can call it element. But in a normal sense, or they are not the same. That's a subtle difference. Even though they are referring to the same thing, but there is a subtle difference there. One is what you see on the screen, and the other one is what you use to generate what you are seeing on the screen. So this H1 now is the tag. So H1 tag, this is the P tag, which is the paragraph like that. So we have different tags. As you can see, the head, we have the head tag, and we have the body tag. We have the HTML tag, and this one now is what we call opening tag, and this one is what we call the closing tag. So there's a lot of them there like that. I have opening and closing, but some of them they are self closing tag, and they are already at the top here. So if you look at this meta now, as you can see, this one did not have closing. Is it this one the way it's being arranged? It closes itself. It's open here and it's closed automatically here. So this is what we call self closing tag. We are going to be seeing a lot of them later on too, but the major one is always opening and closing. So what I mean is that they always affect what is inside them. So which means you can use them to group other tags or other elements together. So you can always use them, you can only put one element inside them. And when I talk about element, you know, it's still talking about tag like that. So we have a lot of them, a lot of tags. Like some of them you can use to format your code, like this B tag now. You can use to make your text to be bold like that. Another one that we have here is to make your text to be slant. So we have the I or we have the EM tag like that. But how do you see everything I've been doing since? We are just seeing the code. Where is the output? So that's where live server comes in there. It's not a must that you have live server. It can work like that. So just right click on this and just open it, or you go to refill in file explorer. So once you refill in file explorer, it will open your normal explorer and you are going to see all of them. Then you just double click on it so that it's open in the browser. As you can see now, we have the result. But this one is bad. Why is it bad? So now if I go back to my code and I make changes to it, for example here now, I want to make this text to be bold too, like that. So I cut it out. So another way of making text to be bold is by using strong like this. So don't forget, opening and closing tag, they affect what is inside them. So which means anything outside of them, they don't touch it. So like that. But once I save the code now go back to the page. As you can see, it's not there. I have to, because it will never be there, because you have to, the what the browser is saying is the old file. It doesn't reload the file for you once to change. So you have to reload for you to see the changes. But this is tedious work to do. Most especially when you're working with CSS, you'll be doing CSS changes rapidly. So that seconds you'll be moving from the browser to this to go and load is waste of time. Because by the time you combine all those seconds together, it will turn to a minute. From minute, it will turn to hour and so forth like that. You don't want to be going there too. So I want to put it to the side by side like this, and I want to be able to see the changes that I'm having here. So once I make the changes here, I will see it and this. And I think this is now better, the way we move it to the side that time is let me move it to the other side. No, it is, so let me move it to the right. So here now, as you can see, the file will be by this edge, so that we have the code at this end like that. So whatever stuff you do now, it will never appear here until you reload. But we don't want to do it like that. We want to save from here, and it will reload the browser for us automatically. That's where the prettier or this live server comes in. So this is it down here. So this go live. Once you install it, you are going to see go live. And once you go to any HTML file, you are going to see go live there automatically. Or you right click on the file, you see open with live server, any method. But this one I prefer this because it's just one click. But here you have to do 2 clicks. Right click, then again and click on the stop. But here, just click once, then it will start. What it will do is that it will create a dummy server for you. That server will now connect VS Code to the browser. So it will be looking at your changes here. So once you make any save here, it will reload. Look at it now, it's not different. So this one now is using a local server. So this 127.0.0.1 here, this is what we call localhost. So this localhost, this is a IP address, but for the domain, I mean the name attached to it is known as a localhost. So this localhost is the same thing as that number there. So instead of you typing that number, you can just use this. As you can see that it's still working. So localhost is mapped to that 127.0.0.1. Just like you have Mailverse that is mapped to that IP address. So the IP address of any computer or any of your local computer is always that 127.0.0.1. But it have a name attached to it, and that name is this localhost. So it's either you use that number or this localhost. You can type any one of them. But once you use live server, by default, can you see now? It's on what port? 5500. So, which means for you to get to this our application, because you can run multiple websites at the same time. So if you open another one now and you run it while this one is running, you see that live server, we see that 55 is already being used. It will change it to another number, which is 5501. Because 2 applications cannot live inside one room. Because the way they can live inside one room, how do you differentiate which one you are asking for? So they will be on the same computer, but they have to be on different ports. So if you want to locate application 2, you have to know the port of application 2. If you want to locate application 3, you have to know the port of application 3, and so forth like that. Each application I'm working with, when you're using live server, it will show you the port under here. And that's what you do. And once you click on it, it will open it automatically for you, except if you want to go and type it yourself, which is a waste of time. And as you can see, by default, it opened this index.html because that is the file I'm working on. But I don't need to do that. I can just remove everything, just leave it like this. You see that it's still loading the content of index.html, which is what I mentioned before. When you go to a particular folder and you don't mention the file you are looking for there, if it sees index, it will load it out of the box. But if you want to load any other one, you have to mention their name. So that's the reason why we always use index for the home page, because when you go to any site, you don't need to do any slash homepage slash whatever stuff. It will pick the content of the homepage by default. The browser knows what to do with that. So as you can see, no index.html, but if you want, you can still type it. It's still the same thing, but you not typing it, we load index.html by default like that. So this is the live server. So now if I come back into this place now and make changes into this, for example, I have another maybe like h2, we just say adding level 2 like this, and once I save, it will force the browser to load like that. And as you can see, it will bring the change. It's loading the browser, not that you must load the browser before it will see changes, but live server will be the one that will do that magic. Once you save here, it's anytime you save, it knows that something has changed. So something has changed, it will just reload the browser automatically for you like that. So again, if I come here and just type P in this way and press enter, this thing will generate some lorem whatever stuff. So save, you see that it will reload the browser and it will bring the content out like this. So this is the first thing you need to do with your site when you want to build. You have a page, then inside the page you generate the structure for that page by typing that HTML. But this one too is just long typing. I always go with the short form of doing the thing. So we have exclamation mark. So when you type exclamation mark or you type HTML5, it's still going to do the same thing. But I always be using this one because it's just one character that I'm using. So once you just press enter on that stuff now, it will generate the same thing for us like that. Then you can update the title, which is going to be about us like this. Then inside this place, I will just have H1 like this. I don't need to start doing all my, like start typing the tag in this way. That's waste of typing. Just type the name of the tag and you press enter. VS Code is going to complete. If it's a valid tag, or even if it's not valid tag, it will still complete it for you. So you can just do H1 or anything like this. Again, as you can see here, I now bring some setting or some text for me. But now, how do we see that page? One way of doing it is to stop your live server, then from there, you now start it again. But you know, if you go to any site, that's not the way you do it. Just because you want to go to setting or you want to go to a path, you don't need to go to the URL and type it. What you do is that there is something that's been given to you already, like a text for you to click on. So you click on this, it now takes you to that page. This is what we call linking here. So how do you do that? We have um anchor tag that you can use. So we have anchor tag or a tag. So I will just be saying a tag. So we have a tag. This a tag is what you can use to connect different sites or same site pages together. It can be external site or it can be local or internal site. Because there are two types of connection you can do. Even when you're dealing with images, anything that connect one side to another one, we have two type of connection. We have external and we have internal. External is the most cheapest one. When you are connected to external, just get the link of that external URL you want to connect to, then paste it inside href. So inside the href, that's where you put the link of where you want to go to. Then in between the a tag, that's where you put what the user is going to click on. No, if you look at it here now, what you click on is the text here. But it doesn't need to be text. For example, here, look at the logo is what I click. But now it's going to the home page. Again, too, I click on button to explore program. Is going to the page of program. So whatever you are putting inside this A doesn't need to be text. It can be anything that the user will click on. So it can be image, it can be button, and any other thing. But whatever you put inside that A tag, that's what the user will see, and that's what they are going to click on. But for now, I will just use text, which is going to be go to Mayorverse about us like that. And once this thing is saved, I will go back to our page now. You see that we are going to be, once it's saved, as you can see, Prettier is running, depending on, because I'm recording, so there's a lot of things going on. That's why, but I can skip it for now because I don't need that. You see that it's going to come up here now. So now if I click on it, you see that it will go to Mayorverse about page like that. This is what we call external linking. So get the link, paste it inside href, and you are good to go. But most of the time, the linking you are going to be doing is internal. You can see on Mayorverse now, all the link I've been clicking on, they are still within Mayorverse. They are not related to any. I don't think I put any. Yeah, the only thing I know that I put there is the WhatsApp. I think that's the only thing I know. Is only the linking of outside, like the WhatsApp message. Maybe you go to contact us now, or the partner with us, like that. So, and you come down to this section, this schedule a call now. So if you click on it, that's the only, as you can see, that's the only time I'm going to external this thing. But it's still using the A tag here, like that. So that's the only place but 90% of the time on your side, the linking are going to be internal there like that. So, and that internal, it's come with different pattern that you are going to be working with it, but it's crazy. And the reason why it's crazy is because it's depending on how you structure your project. But I'm going to talk about one of them now, and from there, or tomorrow, we'll continue from. Today is just introduction to what we want to do, like that. So here now, we want to do our internal. So to do internal, we have what we call same folder linking. We have what we call same folder linking. So we have page A or we have the source and we have the destination. Source is where you have this your A tag. Destination is where you want that your A tag to take you to. So if both of them, if the source, now our source now is index.html, and where we want to go to is about, that's destination. Are they inside the same folder? No, they are inside the same folder. So how do you know they are inside the same folder? In VS Code, their naming always going to be aligned together, and they are going to be shifted inward inside that folder. So if you look at the CSS own, you see that is here for under. So since index and this about, they are under the same folder. So what the way you link them together is just to mention the name of the file, the destination you are going to. If they are in the same folder, you don't need to tell it where that file is located. Just mention the file. The browser knows that it's supposed to locate it inside that. You have to do it like that, because if you don't do it like that, the browser will be thinking about something else. When they are inside the same folder, what you need to do is just to mention the name of where you want to go to, the file you are locating inside that. The index want to go to about, wants to click on this link. And since the two of them, this index.html and this about.html, they are inside that same folder, then just mention the file name. So by the time you get to the browser, you see that the only thing we mention here is about.html. By the time you get to the browser, you see that the browser will complete the entire URL. It complete the entire URL into this thing. So let's just put it there. So let's just go to internal about page, like that. So save, and once you save, something is going to happen here, like that. So something is going to happen. Let me reload. No, this is not the one we are working with. This one is the one we open directly. So that's why I have to reload before it shows. But if I go to this one, as you can see, it's already there. I don't need to load because that one is live server. But something just happened now. As you can see, they are side by side. I will explain that one soon before we call it a day. But look at it here now. Look at the address down. What we type is about.html. By the time we get to the browser, as you can see, it already add other things to it. So once you mention the name of a file without the full address, it will think it's coming from the same folder as of the file where you are using it. Once you mention only like this is the full one, but if you remove, even if you remove all this one too, so if I just remove all this one, what you are saying is that everything you are doing is talking about the current folder where this one is coming from. So once I go this one now, as you can see now, it's not saying localhost 50 whatever store / about. Once you don't put the full address there, how does it going to know that it's full address? So this http whatever stuff has to be there. So http column / or just normal http without s. We have the one with s, and with the s means it is secure. That means that your site is secure. The one without s means the site is not secure. But http is what you are going to be seeing on the localhost there like that. Want to show the full address. For example, if I copy this, let me see, it's going to give me full address. And if I paste it here like this, can you see? HTTP is what, when you are working locally, it's always HTTP because your system is not doing any security, no security at all there. So even when you deploy by default, no security, but since we are going to be using Cloudflare, it's going to do all those setup for us. We don't need to care about the setup by ourselves. So that's why we want to be using Cloudflare to deploy, so that it handle all this unnecessary stuff for us like that. Because that's another topic on its own. That is another thing entirely. Because that deployment, it have its own journey, which we don't need to be focusing on like that. The same thing here too. If I want to go to that event, what we just need to do here is to just use another A tag. Is to just use another A tag. Then is going to be event.html. And why do you need to put the extension? The reason you need to put the extension is because there might be another file with that name but different extension. Because you can actually have image. I can just have event.jpg or the png. So you need to tell him which one. Because when you just say event, you need to tell it which the extension of that file to, not just the name of the file. The only way you don't put the extension is when you're talking about folder. So when you're talking about folder, there is no extension there. You just mention the name of the folder. Just like the way I did it before, /about. That means it will enter about folder. But if there is no index.html inside that header folder, nothing will be loaded. Because if you put something that it cannot find, you are going to get error. But before we go to that event on, or before we go to the other one, let's quickly generate something for them too. So here I'm going to have let me allow the event like that. So this one should complete it just like the way we have before. It depends on your network speed, like that, because it's working with internet. If there is no internet, no AI. Reloading. Event page like that. See, it's still loading. So this is telling it's loading. But once it's done, it will just put this dot 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 here. It means it's not doing anything. But once anytime you do something, it will load. Yeah, as you can see now, and it will complete. I will explain what it's trying to generate right now. This is what I will be explaining tomorrow. But as part of what this is the list. So this is how to generate a list. But let me just save it. So now we have our pages. So from here now we can go to about. So if I click on about, not you, I'm not going to main obvious about. So I'm going to enter now about, and at the same time I did not save this one. So let me go back here. I did not put anything there. So that's why it's not showing. So we want to go to events page like that. So save. Let me put this one to its internal because we are not dealing with so internal events like that. So save, go back to the page again, reload because I was not there when so now, as you can see, the event is showing. So now if I click on it, you see that it's showing the content for the event. And again, the title has been put on. But something is going on here. If you look at all this content, they are placed on their own line. But all this one, they are now on one line. Why? It's because some of these tag, they are known as block element, or some of these elements, they are known as block element, while some of them are known as inline element. Block means they stand on their own. They don't allow things to go side by side with them. And some of them is this your H1 to H6, the paragraph. They don't allow things to go side by side. That's why I see they are standing on their own. Even though the content there, that I see enough space, this one did not go there. It will not allow it because it has already occupied that space. It will always occupy whatever space of it, that entire line of its content. You can't go side by side with it. But when you're talking about inline, those one, they only take the space of the content that is inside them. Then the remaining space, any other inline element can take it. Any other inline element. Even if you use inline with block, block doesn't stay with any other one. It's already occupied its own line. But the only one that can go side by side, they are the inline elements there. And that's this one you see that like this P or this B are the B or the strong or the I. You see that they are going line by line because those one they are inline by default. So they go along with the other content. They don't take the space of entire space of the line where you type them. But for the block, wherever you type them, it will occupy the entire line that is there. So if you now want to force a break for now, maybe you want to force a break in between all this one, we have the BR element. So this one now is BR. It doesn't work, it doesn't have anything inside it. It works with what is beside it. So it's a self-closing tag. So it doesn't have opening and closing. It's a self-closing tag. Just like the one I showed you before. So you can't put anything inside. His job is just to move anything that is after it to another line. If you use two, that means you have more line. It's just what it does is like you are pressing enter on your keyboard. That's what it does. So if you press enter twice, that means you are using BR twice. You can't just come here and say you want to use this one. All this space you are seeing here, by the time you get to the browser, they are gone. It will remove them like that. So that's how it works. And once I save it now, you see that now it is on a different line. And if I need more spacing, I just need to use double BR. But there's a better way of handling this in once we get to the CSS part. You can do all this indirectly. You can talk to the inline to be block, block to be inline. Or you can even move block elements side by side too by using some goodies that the CSS is giving to us that we're going to learn later on. So this one too, if I don't want it to be side by side, I will just use my BR like this. So BR again like that. So save, and you see that it will move them to a separate line. So this is how I'm going to be doing it for now, like that. So this is where we're going to stop for today. We'll complete the other one tomorrow. Like we're going to do a lot of HTML work tomorrow because by next week we are starting with CSS. Why? Because there's still a lot of things to be done, but the basic one, we want to treat all those one first before we now combine them together. Because you need to know each one of them separately before you start now using them together like that. So this is where we'll stop because today is just introduction. Normally, I don't even get to this part, but I want to always move fast these days because we have AI. It's not like before that you have to understand, go deeper, deeper, deeper. No, these days AI is there. The thing you need is just a basic understanding. Then you cannot give the AI to generate some other things for you, like that. Then you interpret whatever is generating for you there. So that's how we are going to go with